Hi pals! Welcome back to my channel again, and welcome if you are new here. This is going to be the second installment in my series of reviewing the Coronet self-help videos. Films? Self-help films, videos. So we're gonna watch this one today. It's about controlling your emotions, which I feel like I definitely need a lot of help to do. I'm just such an emotional person all the time. So let's get into it.
You healthier and happier and improve the lives of people around you.
Fire. Fire is just like your emotions. It is an enemy. Fire and your emotions are your enemy. Your arch nemesis, as it were. The Joker to your Batman.
I think of fire in connection with emotions because when you become stirred up, when your emotions control your actions, it affects not only yourself, but the people around you.
I mean, I understand that your emotions could potentially make you feel more in control of your life, but not necessarily make you happier. Because if you're faking it, are you truly happy? Or are you just kind of it's a little problematic?
Psychologists find that control of emotions can be gained by understanding the stimulus-response pattern. When you have certain experiences, you respond with various emotions. Stimulus response. Just as this sort of stimulus produces this sort of involuntary muscular response. Well, that's a rather simplified suggestion of a complex mental process, but you get the idea. Cause, effect.
Emotions are exactly like reflex tests, where they test your reflexes. Okay, that seems like pseudoscience, but let's go.
Nature endows us at birth with three general patterns of emotional response. Rage is the response to the primary stimulus of thwarting, something interfering with our behavior or actions. Fear is the response to loud noises or loss of support. And the emotional response to love is usually the result of a show of affection or favors. And these seem to be the emotions with which we start life. Then as we grow up, many everyday things and social situations become associated with these primary stimuli, partly by a process called conditioning.
Okay, so we are only born having three emotions: rage, fear, and love. Rage because of thwarting, which minor inconveniences cause us to experience rage. Not necessarily. There are times in our lives when, yes, indeed, a minor inconvenience on a top of a minor inconvenience on top of a minor inconvenience could cause us to become irritated and then eventually be angry from, Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. And fear is from loud noises and loss of support or loss of support. So fear is loud noises or loss of support. So, okay, I get the loud noises thing, especially when you're a newborn baby. A loud noise can startle you, but it's not going to innately instill fear in you. Being startled is completely different than being afraid. And this last one with love, because somebody shows me affection, I'm automatically going to love them. What kind of bull hockey is this? Let's keep going.
And so many things and people cause us to respond emotionally. And in general, that's good. For there are many factors involved in a personality. And a balance of emotions is important to a well-rounded personality. But emotions out of control, well, let's take a look at a slice of everyday life to understand how some stimuli can bring about various emotional responses. What might happen to you?
Conditioning. So let's talk about conditioning just for a minute, okay? I'm gonna look up the specific definition of conditioning as it relates to emotions, because the vision I have in my head is of lobotomizing people and electroshock therapy, that sort of thing. So let's Google emotional conditioning. And this is from a medical dictionary. The memory system that links perceptual information to an emotional response. For example, spotting a friend in a crowd causes a person to feel happy. Okay, that's a version of emotional conditioning, and I could totally get behind that as a scenario, I suppose. Okay, so examples of conditioning responses are Pavlov's dog. Oh my goodness, there are so many different ways that they mess with people's emotional responses over the years in order to condition them to behave in a certain way. That's get back to this, because apparently we're supposed to condition ourselves to behave to societal norms.
Or to Jeffrey Moore? Jeff is an ordinary and healthy and well-balanced young fellow. He usually gets along well with people. And on this particular Friday afternoon, Jeff and his pals are discussing a big triple date tonight.
My dad's gonna let me have that.
Jeff is just an ordinary, everyday Joe Schmo. Look at him. He's just a perfect, pristine version of every person ever. White, male, cis.
Oh, God, that's super. That sounds swell, Jeff, but, well, I don't know if I'll be able to go. I got quite a headache. A headache, huh?
Yeah.
Well, how about letting Jeff, the old soda jerk, fix you up a snappy seltzer?
Not gonna lie, I'd be down with a snappy seltzer that got vodka in it.
Hey, what? Oh, no, you're going Some jerk. Yeah. Okay, Bub, I saw the whole Y stunt. Now, just suppose you clean it up. Go on, wise guy, clean it up.
Yeah, it's right on the floor there.
I mean, honestly, that would be the respectful thing to do. However, the way that the waiter handled the situation was a little not the best. We'll just go with that. It wasn't the best way to handle that situation. And in a real life situation, that waiter, server, whatever you want to call him, would probably be fired. Let's keep going.
Wise guys, huh? Well, suppose I don't pick you up tonight. I got a darn good notion to let you guys walk to the park.
What got into him? Gee, I don't know.
Why is Jeff angry? What's the stimulus that brings on this sudden emotional response of anger or mild rage?
So it wasn't entirely Jeff's fault per se. Yeah, he was making a joke. Yeah, he made a mess. But that server probably shouldn't have been all like, well, you should clean it up, you jerk. And then his friends probably joke around with Jeff like this all the time. I mean, I definitely joke around with my friends and coworkers and even my kids like this on the regular. Like, this is a completely normal way to respond to something like this that happens.
Well, it might be that Jeff feels thwarted as he fails in the fancy trick to impress his pals. So he gets mad at his pals. And now it's later than he thought. He tries a shortcut, hurrying to get home.
Great Scott, who in the world left that there? What a time to water the lawn.
Shortcuts often lead to trouble, and thus loss of emotional.
Great Scott! Who left that there? How about the people that are trying to water their lawn that basically serves absolutely no purpose other than to grow the grass, cut the grass, grow the grass, cut the grass. But should he have been jumping over their hedge like that? Probably not so much.
You've heard haste makes waste. Jeff is frustrated by the sprinkler, but he asked for it. Of course, Jeff's going to get the car ready for the party.
I have not, in fact, heard haste makes waste. Like, ever.
He wouldn't really miss a chance to impress the gang. But, starter won't work.
Okay, so I love this car. I absolutely adore this car. But again, I love all things vintage. That's who I am. I am the retro fairy on the prairie. Okay, this is something that kind of blows my mind a little bit because I'm a child of the 80s. I didn't know that push-button starters were a thing until 2016. But apparently, this is how you start the car back in the day. So, I always thought it was a key. Or before keys, I thought it was the windy thing where you had to, like, crank it. But that's just a side note. So let's keep going.
His behavior is thwarted, and a habit is being developed. A habit of allowing such things to annoy him.
I don't think that's a habit, per se. It's Murphy's Law. That's all that I am seeing.
Jeff's losing control of himself. His thinking is becoming muddled, and he's careless in his actions. The madder he gets, the worse it becomes. Did you ever hear anyone say, "So mad I couldn't see straight"? Severe emotional stress often decreases efficiency. See what I mean? And of course it's the fault of the wrench. This is called projection. He's projecting the blame to the wrench. Well, we've seen Jeff lose control of himself in rage. Let's see how the rest of the family is doing.
Mother! Okay, so anybody that's familiar with the basic understanding of psychology knows what the basic words basic understanding of psychology knows the basics of what projection is. And if you have more of an in-depth understanding of psychology because you're a big fat nerd, me, or you were married to a narcissist once upon a time, also me, you'd have learned exactly what projection is. Projection is making everything someone else's fault. Also, I had a best friend that did that to me too. So, or not to me, but did that extensively. That's a huge thing. If you are a narcissist, you think that the world revolves around you, Leos, they will not accept blame for things. And I get it. That's kind of what he is doing in this situation. He has reached the point where he is absolutely projecting his frustrations out into inanimate objects. But let's see what else happens.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love the new dress you made.
Oh, thank you, Joan, dear.
See how the new dress tends to stimulate Joan's love for Mother? This makes both Mother and Joan happier. But how does it affect Jeff? And how does his anger affect the others?
Oh, you're the sweetest, bestest mother a girl ever had.
Okay, I hate the new dress. I think it would be fine if it didn't have the puffy sleeves. But that's my own personal opinion, and I don't think I could make a dress like that, so kudos to Joan's mom.
I'm glad you like the dress, Joan.
Also, I don't feel like giving gifts to somebody or showing affection to somebody innately elicits the response of love. It elicits the response of gratitude, perhaps. And unless you are in a fully committed relationship with said person, whether it's a mother-daughter relationship, a husband-wife relationship, significant other relationship, friend relationship, gratitude exists, but it doesn't necessarily equate to love.
Happy. I could be a model. Or a cover girl.
Hey, what's gotten into that crazy kid's sister? Oh, Jeff, don't be that way.
Notice how Mother seems to become angry herself because of Jeff's anger. Perhaps she shouldn't, but anger is a violent emotion, and we often see an induction of behavior.
Isn't that the dream? To be cover girl.
Spread of emotion to other persons, almost like a contagious disease.
Again, he's projecting onto his sister because he's frustrated and annoyed with literally every little thing. And who hasn't been in this situation where you wake up in the morning and it's like nothing will go right? That's okay to have the emotional response of being flustered. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep the night before, or maybe you didn't eat enough, or maybe you just don't feel well. These are all things that are perfectly acceptable and should be acceptable in society. We do not live in a perfect world where we're all just marvelous and happy all the time. Well, I'm an empath. I can feel everyone's emotions and they all affect me. I myself have been one to say that, but in reality, it's not the fact that I'm empathetic or I'm an empath or whatever. It has less to do with some extrasensory thing that I can do, although I am a spiritual person, and more to do with the fact that I have become very guarded, so I can see the way other people's moods are. I relatively understand their emotional cues.
Hi, Raj.
Hello, Jeff.
Say, what have you got? Well, that's my letter. Give me that.
Let me. I got the
You
letter.
dirty little sneak. You gonna give me that letter? Are you gonna give
Oh, looky. We've got another little annoying brother trope. How original.
Okay, I'll show you up.
Mother!
You dirty sneaking brother, you gonna give me my...
No wire hangers!
Will you give me that letter? I'll teach you not to open my mail.
I didn't know about him! Stop it! Drop that coat hanger.
Sometimes rage, fear, and love are aroused together at the same time.
Okay, so that whole interaction between him and his brother, I wish I could say I can't relate, but I totally can relate. And not just with me and my brother, but having seen my children also behave in a way. And a lot of times it's not necessarily like this. It's usually, hey, if you do this, I'm going to do this to you. Or if you do that, I'm going to do this to you. And this is a normal, like, sibling relationship. Maybe not as far as going to get a coat hanger to beat your little brother. I relate to mom to, like, get in the middle of it and be like, yo, this is not okay. What the heck is going on?
Love of her children and her fear for Roger's safety were mixed with anger, almost rage, at both boys for the part they played in the flare-up. Of course, Jeffrey's family didn't realize that he had been exposed to one irritating situation after another, an accumulation of stimuli which brought about an abnormally...
And that should not matter. That is the least important part of this whole situation, is the fact that he encountered an annoyance after an annoyance. Ooh, no. If he's having a bad day, it's not wrong to come home and be like, Mom, you know, poop hit the fan today. Like, I did something stupid, and, you know, my friends then teased me, and I feel like garbage. And this is something that bothers me about the ways societal norms are perpetuated historically. Like, men are not allowed to have emotions, and women are supposed to be emotional, but not too emotional, or we would be labeled as hysterical. Let's watch the conclusion, and then I'll give my final thoughts.
An accumulating response. And what did this do to Jeff? This sort of uncontrolled emotional outburst? Well, he regrets some of the things he said, but he can't unsay them. He's tired. That feeling of fatigue may spoil a good time on his date tonight. And if this sort of flare-up is repeated often, it might lead to a permanently warped personality. What could Jeff do to keep better control? Well, we say he could, 1, eliminate...
Getting angry is not innately going to change your personality forever. Those are psychological conditions. Seek medical help. But being angry sometimes is not going to make you be angry all the time.
2, modify the stimulus. Or 3, modify the response. With these 3 ideas in mind, let's examine Jeff's episode again. To control his emotions, Jeff eliminates the stimulus, the failure to impress his pals, by trying such fancy tricks only when he can do them successfully. But sometimes the trick fails. There are many times when you can't eliminate
So he has to be perfect at doing his tricks all the time.
stimulus. Try to modify the stimulus. Standing off and looking at himself, Jeff realizes that a slip like that won't really hurt his standing with the gang. Taking it all lightly as a good sport, Jeff impresses the gang a lot more than if he gets angry over such a little thing.
Realistically, he should have complained to management about the behavior of the server. Or he could have very easily just been like, hey man, I had a spill over here. Can you bring me a rag and I'll clean it up? I have done that more than once at a restaurant. And generally speaking, they're understanding. Even if you spilled the drink because you were messing around, they're not going to treat you like garbage. This is where the whole thing kind of hurts my head a little bit.
It helps to recognize and understand the emotional patterns. Then it's easier to eliminate or modify the stimulus. And there's another, even more valuable way to control your emotions. Modify the response. Rather than get in the habit of getting angry, Jeff can substitute. He can modify his response by seeing the humor in the situation. What good does it do to get angry about this? When Jeff's in the habit of controlling his emotions, his thinking is straighter. Push the button. No stop.
Okay, so I totally have myself done that when, like, I fall down and get hurt in some form or capacity, except for the one time when I broke my tailbone. That was not a situation that I laughed off. I was in agonizing pain. However, you can easily laugh off. I've fallen going up the stairs, and I'm like, well, look at me. I'm just a klutz or whatever. You know, being able to laugh at your own misfortune in certain situations is perfectly acceptable. And it is a good way to control those emotions and kind of push them down.
Let's see. Pull the light switch. No light. That means something. Reason it out. No horn either. So, must be a dead battery. That's straight thinking, unmuddled by emotional disturbances. And it's a simple thing to call the garage or someone for a push and a recharge.
Okay, so he uses deductive reasoning in this situation to figure out why the car won't start. And we should be able to kind of go with the flow with those things. But at the same time, we should also be allowed to be upset about them.
No need to fly off the handle and take it out on the things and the people around. When he tries to understand his emotions and those of people around him, Jeff has less trouble controlling himself, and he and those around him are happier. The more he exercises control of his emotional behavior, the easier it becomes to meet the next situation without losing control.
Oh, how about it? Either the plane or the letter.
And so it goes. A happier time all around.
Little brother is still being a trope, annoying little brother. And oddly enough, middle sister seems to be engaging in the trope of all I care about is looking pretty.
Emotions are under control.
Hey, Raj, how about you help me get the car pushed out of the garage so we can get it started and fixed up for tonight? You know, if the car's right.
So threaten my little brother with destruction of his personal property because he won't give me mine.
I'll drop you off the movies tonight before I go out.
Yes, by a better understanding of the emotional patterns of everyday life, and by knowing how you respond to various stimuli, you can develop better control by eliminating the stimulus or by modifying the stimulus. or by modifying the response.
I'm gonna bribe my little brother to do everything that I want.
You can control the fire of your emotions. You can balance your emotions and use them so that your personality becomes more pleasant. And you and those around you are a great deal happier and healthier.
Okay, so let's get into my final thoughts. I am not a psychologist, never have been a psychologist, never will be a psychologist. But what I am is human, and I have lived a life and dealt with a variety of people in my time as being on this earth. I feel like this is toxic masculinity at its finest. It is absolutely 100% the worst way we could possibly interact in these kind of situations. We should not be telling our boys and men that emotions are bad. Telling boys and men that emotions are innately bad, that they should just shove them down, keep them way down there, is telling them that they need to mask their feelings and hide who they are and not show an emotional response, even if it's a situation that should elicit an emotional response. So in turn, what ends up happening is we are creating this harmful environment for our men to keep all of their frustration and their anger and their sadness and their happiness and all of that bottled up inside. This is something that I'm incredibly passionate about because mental health awareness is something that I feel like needs to be touched on and spoken about more often. So we're just going to take gender off of the table here. Gender is a social construct. We're just not going to speak about gender. However, I will say that those that are born with male parts are more susceptible to toxic masculinity. They will internalize it and they're taught from a young age, walk it off, laugh it off. It's not okay. But it's also not okay on the flip side to tell those who are born with lady parts that we are too emotional, because it's not true. None of it is true. And I am currently resting on my soapbox critiquing something that came out in 1950, which is, that's it. Those are my hot takes. I really hope this doesn't make me lose a whole bunch of subscribers that I worked really hard to get. But from what I see, most of you guys don't watch my videos all the way through anyways. So thanks for watching. My name's Tiff. As always, I am eternally grateful for all of you who subscribe to my channel. Find me on social media. I have recently set up a Patreon, so if you want to see some behind the scenes footage, you can find that on there. I am also on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm working on getting a Twitch and Discord server set up. So, bye pals! Have a good one!